Hello friend, if you are watching this video, you are probably ready to ditch Windows and switch to Linux. And I can bet you are going to love it. But here is the harsh reality. Most new users quit Linux within the first 2 weeks. Not because Linux is hard, but because they make simple avoidable mistakes that kill their enthusiasm. So today I am going to save you from that frustration. I will show you the most common but critical 8 mistakes that send new users running back to Windows and how exactly you can avoid them. So let's dive in. Every new Linux user tries to start their journey by choosing a perfect Linux distro. And in this process, they receive a lot of suggestions like use X distro, this is the best for beginners, or do not use Y distro because that's not for beginners. And the best of all, do not start with a wrong distro. But here is the truth. There are no perfect or wrong distros, only wrong expectations. So, even before choosing a Linux distro, ask yourself 3 simple questions. Do I want stability or new features? Do I want an easy start or maximum control? And how much time do I have to troubleshoot if anything goes wrong? Do not chase popularity, look for functionality. While you are using Windows, go to Linux distro websites, download and try them in a virtual machine. Even better if you have a spare laptop or a PC. Install it there and use it for 2 to 3 weeks. Also, try different desktop environments, and I'm sure at the end you will find your best match. Linux runs on almost anything, but that does not mean your specific Wi-Fi card or printer is guaranteed to work instantly. New proprietary hardware and sometimes even laptops bring issues. So, before installing a Linux distro in a physical hardware, you should always try it through a live USB. If things work perfectly in the live environment, you are all good to go. But if they do not, they will certainly not work even after installing. If the Linux distro does not have a live environment, you can search the compatibility list on the web. Linux Hardware Database, Certified Hardware Ubuntu, and Red Hat Certified Hardware Catalog are 3 of the best online places to check your hardware compatibility. You can also search the community forum to see how well a specific model works with Linux. This will not only boost your confidence but prevent you from booting into a malfunctioning system. Okay, this third mistake is purely fueled by excitement of trying something new. But installing Linux without a proper backup can be dangerous. It is easy to treat a Linux installation like a simple update, but it is not. Installing Linux means modifying your hardware drive partition. One wrong click and your entire data is gone forever. So, do not touch the install button until you have done 3 things. First, if you only have just few documents in your PC, upload them to your cloud storage. It is fast and foolproof. Second, if you have years of personal photos and videos, put them on a physical external drive and unplug it before you start the installation process. Finally, do not forget to write down your Windows license key and your Microsoft Office key, because if you decide Linux is not for you, you will need those to get your old life back. And if you are planning to return to Windows later, do not just hope for the best. Create a full system recovery image of Windows, because backup is not just a smart move, it is the only insurance policy against a permanent disaster. When you switch to Linux, you are adopting a completely different operating system with a completely different philosophy. If you cling onto your old Windows habits, you will only get frustrated and disappointed. Linux, the way it looks, the workflow, the file system structure, software management and updates are fundamentally different than that of Microsoft Windows. For instance, in Linux, you will not find a central C or D drive. Linux uses a Unix-like directory system, starting with /, which denotes the root directory. Linux does not use .exe installers. Software is installed centrally through your software center or package manager. Then, in Linux, instead of saying I need Microsoft Word, always say I need a word processor. Instead of worrying about getting the exact same program, embrace open source alternatives like LibreOffice, Krita, or GIMP. Your goal is the objective, not the brand. Embrace the difference and you will realize the Linux way is often cleaner, faster, and more efficient. When you switch to Linux, the community will be your biggest asset. But what you have to understand is not every piece of advice there is up to date or safe to use. When you use a command starting with sudo, you are giving that line of code total control over your system. And new users often copy and paste commands from the community forum and blog posts without understanding the inner workings. While these tips can sometimes solve problems quickly, other times they can delete your entire home folder or break your bootloader in few seconds. Because Linux commands are very powerful tools, a single wrong command in the wrong directory can be catastrophic. And worst of all, blindly copy-pasting terminal commands stops you from actually learning Linux. So never hit enter on a command which you cannot explain. Use websites like Explain Shell to learn about the command before using it. Or you can ask an AI chatbot to break down the syntax for you. Understanding the what and why before executing the command not only reduces risk but also builds confidence and deeper knowledge of Linux system. We all know that in Windows, updates are automatic, forced, and intrusive. But in Linux, you have total control. Your system will not restart in the middle of an important work. For experienced users, this can be liberating, but for new Linux users, it can become a trap. Because updates are not forced in Linux, it is very easy to neglect them completely. Whereas in Linux, updates are not about finding new ways to collect your data. They are your primary defense against security vulnerabilities and the best way to fix bugs before they crash your system. While most distros will notify you about updating, it is better to make a habit of checking for updates at least once in a week. Learn the one command that keeps your specific distro fresh. These are the commands used to update the most common distros. You can pause the video and note them down. Some distributions also offer automatic security updates, which can help you stay protected without any manual intervention. So check your settings and enable automatic updates if they are available. Remember, no operating system is 100% immune to threats. Keeping your system up to date is the simplest thing you can do to ensure your Linux experience stays stable, fast, and most importantly, secure. If there is any big time sink in the Linux world, it can only be distro hopping without a proper goal. New users often get caught in this cycle of switching distributions every few days. They think they are exploring and learning something new, but in reality, they are just wasting their time. When you constantly switch distros, you never move past the installation phase. You stay a beginner forever because you never stay in one environment long enough to encounter and solve a real problem. What most beginners do not even realize is that there is a difference between a distribution and a desktop environment. In reality, most mainstream Linux distros are almost the same under the hood. A new user won't have to switch from Ubuntu to Kubuntu just because they do not like the user interface. All they have to do is install a KDE Plasma desktop environment on their existing system. So, what you should do is just choose a mainstream, stable distro and commit to it for at least 3 to 4 months. If you do not like the look, learn customization. If software is missing, learn package management. If something breaks, learn how you can fix it. Because the true Linux mastery is not found in the ISO you download. It is found in the problems you solve by staying put. The final and the most common mistake is giving up very quickly. New users often hit a barrier and they immediately retreat to Windows. But here is the reality. Windows breaks too. The difference is that When Windows breaks, you are used to it. But when Linux breaks, you blame the operating system and quit. Plus, there is so much online misinformation telling you that Linux is hard to use, or you have to know terminal to use it. But those days are gone. Using Linux and knowing Linux are completely different things. Just like you do not have to be a mechanic to drive a car, you do not have to be a geek to use GNU Linux in your daily life. Of course, you are going to make mistakes. You might even break your system a few times. But every mistake is a learning experience, and every problem you solve won't be an issue next time. Don't quit just because Linux is different. Stick to it, solve your problems, and eventually you will master it. Transitioning to Linux is more than just changing your operating system. It is about taking back control of your digital life. Linux is powerful, but like any tool, it is only as good as the person using it. Be patient, stay curious, and you will realize that the freedom you get in return is worth every bit of the learning curve. And here is your challenge. Pick a mainstream distro, install it, and commit to using it for at least 30 days. That's it. Just 30 days. After that, you will know if Linux is for you or not. But I can bet you will not want to go back. And remember, every expert was once a beginner who just refused to quit. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.